prior to coming to Queens, I was living, can I just restart?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I grew up in the Toronto suburb of Scarborough, which has a very different demographic than that of Queens. So when I came, it was somewhat of a culture shock, especially during orientation week. I was fasting at the time, and unfortunately there were no accommodations made for students who were fasting. But I was able to find a parallel community, the community that was in the Muslim Students Association, and that was a group of people who were Queen's students, allies of Queen's students, and so that was a really great community that formed. I did find in my tenure with CUMSA, just as a first-year student, especially since I didn't live in residence, a lot of the programming didn't accommodate or reflect a lot of my needs, so that was unfortunate. But the services that CUMSA offered complemented that and ensured that we had a space for ourselves. And the large reason I actually did decide to get involved in the AMS was to ensure that a lot of the AMS programming can reflect the diverse body of the undergraduates. The events that happened in my second year with CUMSA it all started actually in the first week of classes, I would say, when we were fasting at the time, and me and my friend and I were walking home from breaking our fast. So it was after sunset, and someone drove by in a car and yelled, "You effing Taliban." And so my friend and I were like, did they just really say that? But we just continued along our way. The next day, we were chalking for our annual Fastathon event, and another one of my friends comes and tells us that while she was chalking, someone drove by her and yelled, "Let me unwrap you." She also wears a scarf. And so these two incidents kind of prompted me to write an op-ed in the journal about, the sense of Islamophobia that we were feeling on campus, and that people should own up to their prejudices instead of cowardly yelling it to us from the side of their car. But in the midst of writing this article, I got an email from another person in CUMSA who had told me that our prayer space had been broken into with a crowbar. And the prayer space is a very, very, sacred place for a lot of the students on campus. It's where we pray 5 times a day. It's where we break our fasts. It's just the hub of the community. So the break-in was kind of jarring. But what made it even worse was the fact that there were these signs that I had made earlier that directed people to the prayer space. And one of the signs had been defaced to read, "Queen's University Muslim students should die." So the death threat, combined with the break-in, combined with the people yelling us on the street, really put us in this in this mode where we thought, the Islamophobia has reached a point where we need to take action on it. So we started an anti-Islamophobia task force with us in CUMSA. We got a lot of partners involved, which is really awesome. Over 100 student clubs came together, and administrators came to support us in our mission. And by the end of the year, CUMSA had actually won the Human Rights Award from the Human Rights Office, which was a great end to a difficult year. So after that our big anti-Islamophobia campaign, there was the second semester was relatively calm. Nothing really came up, and there were some things that came up. It's just sometimes some people make some comments. The last time I can recall hearing someone saying something prejudiced to me was sometime last winter semester, and I was in Stauffer Library, and someone had called me the Taliban Turban of Terror, and I'd made this public, and the administration did release a statement against this. So in my second year, when all the things were going on, there were more events, in that there seemed to be no end, in that things would just compound and compound. People would continually say these ignorant and racist things towards us, and that was a really difficult time for us. I actually considered taking the semester off in my second year because it was just difficult to balance all of the commitments of the campaign, of the anti-Islamophobia campaign, to the emotional drain that it had on me, plus my school commitments. So I had considered taking semester off. I know at least 2 students who did transfer out of Queens due to that climate. So it was incredibly draining in that capacity. But thank goodness for communities like CUMSA and for communities who supported us. That whole event really introduced me to a great community that has a focus on equity, and those are some of my best friends today, and I learned so much from them, and a large part of why I'm here in my capacity as AMS president is due to those experiences and me wanting to see change at Queen's. So as I mentioned, a large reason that I decided to get involved in the AMS is due to my experiences at this university and wanting to see positive change for communities and people that may not always be represented in AMS or university programming. So some things that the AMS has done is we've asked all our commissions and all our services to speak to our social issues commissioner to incorporate the principles of equity into their strategic planning for the year, and to ensure that hiring policies, committees, and all those things incorporate those ideals. Another thing we're doing is, hopefully coming sooner, is a project outlining the contribution of people of color and marginal identities to Queens' history. And oftentimes we're very familiar with the contributions of our alumni and people at Queens, but a lot of these focus on, you know, the community that has money, which oftentimes does not include a lot of the marginalized communities. And contribution is a very broad term, so it'll look at things such as the Henry Report and those people who left Queens but also allowed us to speak about race relations at Queens and such. And so those are the two main things that I would say. We're also trying to get kosher and halal at Common Ground, so to provide a greater range of food options for students on campus. And it's just smaller things like that. I know we also started the Anti-Racist Coalition and the Social Issues Commission, which are clubs which have a commitment, or who wish to have a commitment and work with other clubs to work on anti-racist initiatives, to come together and collaborate. We also have the equity grants that we've initiated this year to give money, financial support to groups that may not otherwise have it due to just the community they serve. So as the Canadian milieu changes, I believe Queens will reflect that. When Queens becoming a diverse community needs to be complemented with ensuring that those people from various different backgrounds do feel comfortable and safe on this campus. So a lot of that means ensuring that the university reflects that in their policies. I know that the Diversity Equity Task Force, which is currently headed up by Adnan Hussein, they worked on, which is an administrative body, they're working on looking at the DARE panels. So the DARE panels are Diversity Anti-Racist Equity panels. What they looked at were the various recommendations from all the previous reports, so the Henry Report, the PAC Report, and they spoke to students about it and asked them what their opinions on equity and the state of diversity was at Queens. And they came up with 12 recommendations. So it's really important to incorporate those 12 recommendations in whatever capacity Queens is capable of, so that when the diversity and people from diverse backgrounds come here, they feel as much as a part of the community as everyone else. So the question of how to ensure that Queens is recruiting or is admitting people from a variety of backgrounds has always been a lingering one. I actually recently found out that a Senate report was commissioned back in the 80s to look at this exact question. I think Queens is uniquely positioned because we have the PSC, which is mandatory to get admitted to Queens. And so a lot of that might mean focusing on other criteria as opposed to just marks. Understanding that marks are so much of someone's identity, so much of someone's background, and that someone can contribute to Queens on bases beyond just their academic potential and capability. So these are questions that are quite continual, but hopefully in my capacity I can ensure that they're continually asked in a productive and constructive way.